Introduction to Moving Camera. In this video, we are going to see about Introduction to Moving Camera. In moving camera, motion segmentation is commonly performed using the image plane motion of pixels or optical flow. However, objects that are at different depths from the camera can exhibit different optical flows even if users sharing the same real-world motion. This can cause a depth-dependent segmentation of the scene. The goal is to develop a segmentation algorithm that clusters pixels that have similar real-world motion irrespective of their depth in the scene. The solution uses optical flow orientations instead of the complete vectors and exploits the well-known property that under camera translation, optical flow orientations are independent of object depth. Traditional image mosaicing uses a sequence of images of a scene captured by a moving camera. Generalized mosaicing is a simple and effective method for extracting additional information at each scene point. The key observation is that as a camera moves, it senses each scene point multiple times. User rigidly attaches to the camera, either in front or behind the imaging lens, an optical filter with spatially varying properties. When this imaging system moves, each scene point is measured multiple times but under different optical settings. Fusing the data captured in the multiple images yields an image mosaic that includes additional information about the scene. This information can come in the form of extended dynamic range, high spectral quality, polarization, focus or distance sensing, or enhancements to other dimensions of imaging. Introduction to camera angles. In this video, we are going to see about Introduction to camera angles. The relationship between the camera and the object being photographed, that is, the angle, gives emotional information to an audience and guides their judgment about the character or object in shot. The more extreme the angle, that is, the further away it is from eyesight, the more symbolic and heavily loaded the shot. The bird's eye view. A scene from directly overhead, a very unnatural and strange angle. Familiar objects viewed from this angle might seem totally unrecognizable at first, that is, umbrellas in a crowd, dancers' legs. This shot does, however, put the audience in a godlike position, looking down on the action. People can be made to look insignificant and like part of a wider scheme of things. High angle. High angle is not as extreme as a bird's eye view. High angles make the object photographed seem smaller and less significant or scary. The object or character often gets swallowed up by their setting. They become part of a wider picture. The camera is elevated above the action using a crane to give a general overview. Eye level. An eye-level angle is the one in which the camera is placed at the subject's height, so if the actor is looking at the lens, he won't have to look up or down. Low angle. Low angle increases height and gives a sense of speeded motion. Low angles help give a sense of confusion to a viewer, of powerlessness within the action of a scene. The background of a low-angle shot will tend to be just sky or ceiling. The added height of the object may make it inspire fear and insecurity in the viewer, who is psychologically dominated by the figure on the screen. Oblique or canted angle. Sometimes the camera is tilted, that is not placed horizontal to floor level, to suggest imbalance, transition and instability, very popular in horror movies. This technique is used to suggest point-of-view shots. When the camera becomes the eyes of one particular character, seeing what they see, A handheld camera is often used for this. Introduction to definition and tracking. In this video, we are going to see about Introduction to definition and tracking. Definition. As a core element of film language, camera language plays a crucial role on narrative explanation, character shaping, and theme development. The attraction of camera language lies in its movability. Unlike stationary filming, moving camera provides more varieties and spirituality. It can coherently perform the transition of time, space, and optical center and can show the frames of story more integrity without any editing and cutting. Although camera movements are often implemented to add excitement to shots, their best use is when new information is revealed. Camera movements can be distracting and even annoying when overused or used without a reason. Tracking. Tracking is similar to dollying. The main difference being that in dollies, the camera is moved toward or away from the subject, whereas in a track shot, the camera is moved sideways parallel to an object. In a track-in shot, the camera moves in on the subject. Track-in and track-away together can be summarized as dolly, which is a term frequently used in filmmaking field. Introduction to panning. In this video, we are going to see about panning. During a pan, the camera is aimed sideways along a straight line. The camera itself is not moving. It is often fixed on tripod with the operator turning it either left or right. Panning is commonly utilized to capture images of moving objects like cars speeding or people moving, or to show sweeping vistas like an ocean or a cliff. Pan 1 is one of the earliest and best appearances of panning was in Edwin S. Porter's 1903 movie Life of an American Fireman. While the camera follows the fire brigade approaching their destination, the operator pans to reveal it, a house burning. Remember, the best pans are used to reveal information. A smooth pan will be slow enough to allow the audience to observe the scenery. A fast pan will create blur. If it is too fast, it will be called a swish pan. News gathering etiquette demands panning from left to right as to allow the viewer to read any text that may be captured on camera, like headlines or marquises. Tilting. In this video, we are going to see about tilting. Tilts refers to the up or down movement of a camera while the camera itself does not move. Tilting the camera up can show height. Tilting it down can show depth. It can show relationships. For example, the tilt of the camera from a man standing on a rocky ledge with a coiled rope on his shoulder to a man standing alone at the base of the cliff presents the situation. Tilts can also generate emotional responses. Tilting upward can cause us feelings of rising interest, expectation, hope, or anticipation. Tilting downward can lower interest and create feelings of disappointment or sadness. Introduction to rolling. In this video, we are going to see about rolling. Roll is rotation around z-axis, meaning the camera remains pointed at the same subject. The following terms describe translational movement, meaning the camera's position actually changes during the move, but its rotation does not. Rolling is a type of motion that combines rotation, commonly of an axially symmetric object, and translation of that object with respect to a surface. Either one or the other moves, such that if ideal conditions exist, the two are in contact with each other without sliding. rolling is achieved by a rotational speed at the line or point of contact which is equal to the translational speed. When no sliding takes place, the rolling motion is referred to as pure rolling. In practice, due to small deformations at the contact area, some sliding does occur. Nevertheless, rolling resistance is much lower than sliding friction, and thus rolling objects typically require much less energy to be moved than sliding ones. As a result, such objects will more easily move if they experience a force with a component along the surface, for instance, gravity on a tilted surface, wind, pushing, pulling, an engine. Unlike most axially symmetrical objects, the rolling motion of a cone is such that while rolling on a flat surface, its center of gravity performs a circular motion rather than a linear one. Rolling objects are not necessarily axially symmetrical. Objects with corners such as dice roll by successive rotations about the edge or corner which is in contact with the surface. Introduction to dolly shots. In this video, we are going to see about dolly shots. When the entire camera moves forward or backward, this move is called dolly. If the camera is on tripod, the tripod will also be moved. Dollies are often used when recording a subject that moves away or towards a camera, in which case the goal would probably be keeping the subject at the same distance from the camera. For an optimal dolly, the camera should be mounted on a wheeled platform such as an actual dolly or a shopping cart, depending on the budget. Moving the camera forward is called dolly in. Moving the camera backward is called dolly out. Despite a common misconception, the terms zoom and dolly are not interchangeable. With dollies, the camera is being moved in a physical space. With zooms, the camera remains at a constant position, but the lens magnify or minimize the size of the subject. Zooms happen at the push of a button. Zoom in refers to seemingly approaching the subject, thus making it look bigger in the frame. Zoom out refers to seemingly distancing the subject, thus making it look smaller. Note that zooms change focal length, thus affecting depth of field. Zoom in transforms the lens into telephoto, while zoom out changes it into wide angle. Zooming is considered amateurish and is not preferred by professional cinematographers, but there are many exceptions like the opening shot of The Conversation 1974, in which Francis Ford Coppola elects zoom to articulate the film's themes of espionage or voyeurism. Zooms are not really a move, for the camera doesn't change position. But in film studies and filmmaking courses, they have been traditionally combined with real camera moves. Introduction to cranes. In this video, we are going to see about cranes. In filmmaking and video production, a crane shot is a shot taken by a camera on a crane or jib. The most obvious uses are to view the actors from above or to move up and away from them, a common way of ending a movie. Camera cranes go back to the dawn of movie making and were frequently used in silent films to enhance the epic nature of large sets and massive crowds. The major supplier of cranes in Hollywood throughout the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s was the Chapman Company, later Chapman Leonard of North Hollywood, supplanted by dozens of similar manufacturers around the world. The typical design provided seats for both the director and the camera operator, and sometimes a third seat for the cinematographer as well. large weights on the back of the crane provided a perfect balance to compensate for the weight of the people riding the crane. During the 1960s, the tallest Hollywood crane was the Chapman Titan crane, a massive design over 20 inches high, that won an Academy Scientific and Engineering Award. Most cranes like this were manually operated, requiring an experienced boom operator who knew how to rise, lower, and grab the camera alongside actors while the crane platform rolled on separate tracks. The crane operator and camera operator had to precisely coordinate their moves so that focus, pan, and camera position all started and stopped at the same time, requiring great skill and rehearsal. Some filmmakers like to have the camera on a boom arm just to make it easier to move around between ordinary setups. Introduction to Steadicam. In this video, we are going to see about Steadicam. A Steadicam essentially combines the stabilized, steady footage of a conventional tripod mount with the fluid motion of a dolly shot and the flexibility of handheld camera work. While smoothly following the operator's broad movements, the Steadicam's armature absorbs jerks, bumps, and shakes. The Steadicam was first used in Best Picture nominated Woody Guthrie biopic Bound for Glory, 1976, debuting with a shot that compounded the Steadicam's innovation. Cinematographer Haskell Wexler had Brown start the shot on a fully elevated platform crane which zipped down, and when it reached the ground, Brown stepped off and walked the camera through the set. Steadicam, technically audacious and previously impossible shot, created considerable interest in how it had been accomplished and impressed the Academy enough for Wexler to win the Oscar for Best Cinematography that year. Steadicam was then used in extensive running and chase scenes on the streets of New York City in Marathon Man, 1976, which was actually released 2 months before Bound for Glory. Steadicam landed a notable third credit in Avildsen's Best Picture, winning Rocky 1976, where it was an integral part of the film's Philadelphia street, jogging, or training sequences, and the run-up the art museum's flight of stairs, as well as the fight scenes. Garrett Brown was the Steadicam operator on all of these. The Shining, 1980, pushed Brown's innovations even further when director Stanley Kubrick requested that the camera shoot from barely above the floor. This prompted the innovation of a low-mode bracket to mount the top of a camera to the bottom of an inverted post, which substantially increased the creative angles of the system, which previously could not go much lower than the operator's waist height. This low-mode concept remains the most important extension to the system since its inception. Introduction to widescreen. In this video, we are going to see about widescreen. Widescreen images are a variety of aspect ratios used in film, television, and computer screens. In film, a widescreen film is any film image with a width-to-height aspect ratio greater than the standard 1.37:1 Academy aspect ratio provided by 35 mm film. For television, the original screen ratio for broadcast was 4:3, that is 1.33:1. In the late 2000s, 16:9, 1.78:1 TV displays came into wide use. They are typically used in conjunction with high-definition television, HD TV receivers, or standard definition SD DVD players and other digital television sources. With computer displays, aspect ratios wider than 4:3 are also called widescreen. Widescreen computer displays were previously typically of 16:10 aspect ratio, now usually 16:9. Widescreen was first used in the film of the Corbett Fitzsimmons fight in 1897. This was not only the longest film that had been released to date at 100 minutes. It was also the first widescreen film being shot on 63 mm Eastman stock with 5 perforations per frame. Widescreen was first widely used in the late 1920s in some short films and newsreels, including Abel Gance film Napoleon 1927 with a final widescreen sequence in what Gance called Polyvision. Claude Autant-Lara released a film, Pour construire un feu, to build a fire, 1928, in the early Henri Chrétien widescreen process, later adopted by 20th Century Fox for CinemaScope in 1952. On May 26, 1929, Fox Film Corporation released Fox Grandeur News and Fox Movietone Follies of 1929 in New York City in the Fox Grandeur process. RKO Radio Pictures released Danger Lights with Jean Arthur, Louis Wilhelm, and Robert Armstrong on August 21, 1930, in a 65 mm widescreen process known as Natural Vision, invented by film pioneer George K. Spoor. On November 13, 1930, United Artists released The Bat Whispers, directed by Roland West, in a 70 mm widescreen process known as Magnafilm. Warner Brothers released Song of the Flame and Kismet, both 1930, in a widescreen process they called Vitascope. In 1930, after experimenting with a system called Phantom Screen for the trail of 1928, MGM came out with a system called Real Life. MGM filmed The Great Meadow, 1930, in real life. However, it is unclear if it was ever released in that widescreen process due to declining interest of the movie-going public. By 1932, the Great Depression had forced studios to cut back on needless expense, and it was not until 1953 that wider aspect ratios were again used in an attempt to stop the fall in attendance due partially to the emergence of television in the US. However, a few producers and directors, among them Alfred Hitchcock, have been reluctant to use the anamorphic widescreen size featured in such formats as CinemaScope. Introduction to aspect ratios. In this video, we are going to see about aspect ratios. Academy 1.37:1, current or 1.33:1 before the soundtrack was added. The Academy ratio 1.33:1 before a soundtrack was incorporated onto the film was the primary original aspect ratio. Most movies, if not all, that were released before The Robe, the first movie to be shown in widescreen, were shown in this ratio. When televisions first came on the scene, they were and still are designed with an aspect ratio matching the Academy ratio so that movies would be shown in the same way as in the theaters. Movies that were filmed in an Academy ratio will not have a widescreen version because they fit perfectly on the TV. Such movies include The Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, and many, many others. Although the soundtrack ended up slightly narrowing the visible frame, a hard-made aperture of 1.37:1 became a standard in 1930. It is called the Academy ratio because it was agreed upon by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. CinemaScope 2.35:1 to 2.55:1. This was once the most commonly used method of filming movies because its only major requirement was a special CinemaScope projector lens. This lens was and still is available at many movie theaters. CinemaScope was originally created by 20th Century Fox, but it is no longer in use in its original format. From that point until the early 1970s, a standard of 2.35:1 was used. However, there is usually slight mating in theaters, which results in a theoretical aspect ratio closer to 2.40:1. All of the Star Wars movies and even the 1997 animated version of Anastasia were filmed in CinemaScope, as were classics like The Robe and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Cinerama 2.35:1 when transferred 2.60:1 originally. This method of filming actually used 3 cameras, after which the 3 images were interlocked together. This created an extremely wide presentation of up to 2.60:1. However, any transfer to video would be from a 35 mm anamorphic reduction print. Therefore, home video transfers have a 2.35:1 ratio. Several movies were filmed in Cinerama, including How the West Was Won and 7 Wonders of the World. Cinerama also required the screen onto which the image was projected to be deeply curved, or else the resulting picture would suffer from severe distortions as a result of projecting at different angles. Therefore, it is not really possible to make a widescreen version of a Cinerama film suitable for viewing on a television unless some form of corrections are applied to eliminate the distortion. Hard mate or open mate 1.66:1 to 1.85:1. Both hard and soft mating involves filming a movie onto a 1.33:1 frame and mating the frame during post-production to get its intended aspect ratio. The main difference between the two is how the movie is processed for home viewing. Most open-mate films have the mates removed when transferred to a full-frame home video release. This can dramatically increase the potential for unexpected material such as boom mics to appear in the home video version. This would have made them unaware during filming if the boom mics and so forth were actually on the frame because the cardboard was blocking that part out. Hard-mated films are locked to their aspect ratio and are subjected to the pan and scan process for the full-frame home video release. This results in the loss of visual information on the sides of the frame. Movies such as Memphis Belle are hard-mated. Panavision 2.40:1 anamorphic or various, that is flat. The Panavision company is now the most successful maker and distributor of lenses and filming equipment. In the 1970s, their Panavision lenses became the standard for widescreen and non-widescreen movies. Panavision still makes or sells the lenses for most of the major studio productions today, including lenses for films made with mating as opposed to true widescreen. These mated films are not necessarily 2.40:1, but are most likely 1.85:1 because Panavision now represents the manufacturer or distributor more than the filming process. It is not uncommon to see that many television shows are filmed with Panavision lenses. Therefore, it is important to note that filmed and Panavision cameras and lenses does not automatically constitute a widescreen process. Super 35 various. Super 35 process does not involve widescreen lenses, but rather it involves framing the picture to fit the ratio of the screen. The top and bottom of the frame are mated out and removed from the picture completely, resulting in a rectangular picture. Super 35 movies are filmed using flat lenses. Using an optical printer, the interpositive image is then contact printed to produce an internegative anamorphic release print. As a result, an anamorphic image from a Super 35 original tends to have a gritty but sharp look that is harder in a way that an anamorphic image which has a smooth look. However, scenes which include special effects in them are almost always filmed hard-mated in the appropriate widescreen ratio and therefore must be subjected to the pan and scan process. VistaVision VV 1.66:1 or 1.85:1 or 2.0:1. VistaVision system was more flexible than others, allowing for more aspect ratios, but Paramount specs always referenced a preferred AR of 1.85:1. All VV prints were hard-mated to around 1.66:1 to allow some flexibility in framing. VistaVision movies were filmed with a specially designed camera that was mounted on its side. Special filming method required a special projector, but its image quality was better than standard 35mm. Movies that are shot in VistaVision were photographed on a double-width frame of 35mm running right to left horizontally. The films were generally reduction printed to 35mm, 4 perforated 4 sprocket holes per frame in dye transfer Technicolor and projected with a 1.85:1 ratio. The image area was extracted optically from the full frame. For some special venues, the double frame 35mm film was cropped to 1.85:1 during projection. VistaVision movies include Vertigo, North by Northwest, and White Christmas. TV safe areas. Safe area is a term used in television production to describe the areas of the television picture that can be seen on television screens. Older televisions can display less of the space outside of the safe area than ones made more recently. Flat panel screens, plasma displays, and liquid crystal display, that is LCD screens, generally can show most of the picture outside the safe areas. The use of safe areas in television production ensures that the most important parts of the picture are seen by the majority of viewers. Title safe area. A simulation of how the end credits of a TV show might have looked on an old TV set if the editor neglected to make sure they fell within the boundaries of the title safe area. The title safe area or graphics safe area is, in television broadcasting, a rectangular area which is far enough in from the four edges such that text or graphics show neatly with a margin and without distortion. This is applied against a worst case of on-screen location and display type. Typically, corners would require more space from the edges, but due to increased quality of the average display, this is no longer the concern it used to be, even on CRTs. If the editor of the content does not take care to ensure that all titles are inside the title safe area, some titles in the content could have their edges chopped off when viewed in some screens. Video editing programs that can output video for either television or the web can take the title safe area into account. Final Cut Pro, a professional software package, can show two overlay rectangles in both its viewer and canvas. The inner rectangle is the title safe area and the outer rectangle is the action safe area. In the illustration, the green area is referred to as the title safe area. Note that these colors are for illustration only and do not appear on the television screen. This area will be seen by all television screens no matter when they were made unless a user has modified the settings. The term title safe originated from the fact this is where it is safe to display text such as lower thirds or full screen graphics listing information such as telephone number. Action safe area. Depending on how a television set is adjusted, viewers can see a larger area than the title safe area. The action safe area is a larger rectangle consisting of the green title safe area and a rectangle around it shown in yellow.